Ba 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 ba. Hot. Hotter than hot. Back on Earth it was snowing, but here I have entered literal hell. The moment we exit the spaceship, I'm hit by a gust of wind so hot that the hairs inside of my nostrils slowly shrivel up. It's like stepping inside of an oven. It hits me like a punch in the gut and I double over onto my knees. The metal platform I'm standing on feels like it's going to melt right through my shoes. Nothing is safe to touch. I try to breathe, but only sweltering air enters. Can I even breathe on this planet? The sun sizzles above me in the sky. I can feel my skin burning to a crisp as an immediate reaction. My body is already perspirating, sweat trickling down my brows into my eyes. It stings. I really do think I can spontaneously combust into flames. There's no way I can last even a minute in these conditions. Eok appears behind me, tapping my shoulder. Princess, take the root! Chew chew! I don't even think twice about the small bottle in my hand. I remove the lid and shake out the small red-coloured root onto my palm. I immediately throw it into my mouth. Ugh, bitter. My face contorts into a grimace as I chew on this extremely bitter-tasting root. It tastes like a 100-year-old leather shoe dipped into coffee. My first instinct is to spit it out, but then I realize the effect it's having on me. My skin feels light, airy. Suddenly, the scorching warmth all around me feels like a pleasant summer day. I can breathe normally again. My mind is perfectly clear. The heat doesn't bother me anymore. I'm hoisted up on my feet before I get the chance to do it myself. Look alive, Princess. The heat is the least of your problems, says James in a foreboding tone. How is this gonna get romantic? I know we're only on, like, chapter 6 out of a lot more than usual, but, still. He too seems to be chewing on the root, minus the weird face like I'm making right now. Move out, James commands his platoon. We've landed on top of a large cliff with sand dunes as far as the eye can see in the distance. Move out to where exactly? Where are we going? The only thing around us seems to be a large platform where the spaceship has landed on. Wait, no. The large dust storms seem to have hidden the large city in the far distance. The very far distance. I don't even dare look over the edge of the cliff. We're walking, I ask, my eyes darting over towards James. The stoic man turns his head to face me. There's a slight smirk on his lips. I certainly am not, he says. He launches himself into the sky and zooms away towards the city in the blink of an eye. Wait, he gets to yeet off into the distance, but I'm the one that has to climb down a cliff. I kick the platform in frustration, shaking my fist at the sky. You could have parked closer, I yell out loud, angrily chewing on my root. How are we going to reach the city from here? I ask Eok. Princess has good eyesight. Eok sounds impressed. Princess, no worry. We take these. He gestures behind us, where several soldiers have taken out what seems to be some kind of vehicle on 3 wheels. Oh, thank God we're not traversing the desert. How do we get down, though? I ask, still unsure how we're going to get off of this cliff. Eok mounts one of the large vehicles by hoisting himself up. I blink up at him. That's a little out of reach for me to climb. Before I can voice my concerns, however, another soldier throws me up in the air without any warning. I shriek in surprise, and Eok catches me, placing me behind him on the large saddle. We hover. Now, close your eyes, Princess. Sand everywhere, he warns me. I don't even have time to say anything before Eok starts the mechanical craft, and the wheels kick up a ton of dust in the air. It starts hovering above the ground. I cough in response and immediately squeeze my eyes shut. Finally, we're off. Distinctly Asian architecture. Sorry, I'm just getting comfy cozy again. My hair My hair is dusted with sand. My entire body has sand in every nook and cranny. It's so uncomfortable. I already couldn't take a shower the entire time I was on that spaceship and felt like a dirty pig, but now I just feel like I've got a 10-pound layer of dirt permanently stuck to my skin. I feel so dirty. The atmosphere has changed since we arrived at this massive palace entrance. I can still feel it in my stomach. This tense knot won't go away. I'm being pushed around by soldiers, forcing me to walk straight towards the entrance. James is standing there, arms crossed behind his back, facing the gate. Has he been standing here all this time? The platoon lines up in formation. I'm forced to keep my hands behind my back as well. On the sides is a small tower with a large drum. No, it looks more like a gong. The soldier standing next to it slams a large hammer onto the metal piece. The sound travels across the entire field. The bass is so low, I can feel the bones in my body vibrate with it. This is making me even more nervous. Lord Veritas, the 6th Division has returned to Kuluk. The soldier that rang the gong yells out out loud in a boisterous voice. The gates open in a dramatic fashion as I fidget on the spot in anticipation. God, that palace looks so huge. It really is intimidating. With my keen eyesight, I spot a couple of new soldiers walking out of the gate. They all look the same as Eok. I guess this is their native planet. Whoa. Hey there. And then I don't even have to guess who the next creature I see is supposed to be. This majestic creature with skin so light it makes the sun reflect back at me as if it was snow. He stands out completely from the rest. That has to be him, Veritas. I lock eyes with his snake-like pupils. I freeze on the spot when I realize he knows I'm looking at him even from this distance. He looks nothing like I imagined, not similar to James at all. I cast my eyes downwards as the intensity of his stare is too much for me to bear. The distance between us is huge, but he definitely made eye contact with me. Well, with your eagle eyes, you knew, right? Slowly, they make their way down the stairs. It feels like eons before they finally arrived at the plateau. All soldiers bow their head at this giant, ethereal being, including James. Someone smacks the back of my head. Bow, hisses someone from behind. Quickly, I bow my head as well. Veritas raises his arm only slightly, which is enough to make all the soldiers stand up straight again. They were so rowdy back on the spaceship, but here they look like highly trained machines, falling perfectly in line. James takes a step forward. Lord Veritas, he begins, we have returned from our mission to planet HX-108, or Earth as they called it. I present to you... Smack. I flinch in surprise at the sudden strike. Veritas' long arm is outstretched and James's face is turned away. I see even less soldiers than the initial report. More have perished since then. Why is that? His voice is like an ice-cold shiver. It makes you tremble, but you can't shake it off. Lord Veritas, there was... Another smack across his face causes him to stop speaking. Do you take me for a fool? Veritas drawls out. You not only failed your mission to conquer HX-108, but you couldn't even mark how many soldiers you lost. Veritas takes a step forward towards James, who meekly turns his head down. You were the failure here. Veritas waves his hand around in a rhythmic manner, causing particles to appear. A sudden vine appears in Veritas' hand, having grown from his wrist, it seems. The vine continues to grow until he wields it like a whip. On your knees, he hisses. James obeys him, falling down to one knee on the ground. Face your platoon, Veritas commands. James turns towards us, his gaze unfocused. His hand is clenched on top of his knee. I hold my breath as I see this all unfold in front of me. This is going to be a public flogging. The first strike happens without warning. The sound of the makeshift whip cracks in the air, echoing off the empty grounds. In quick and consecutive strikes, Veritas whips James's back until his armor is torn apart. James grunts in pain, but tries to withstand the onslaught of slashes on his back, gritting his teeth and bearing with it as much as he can. I can hear his flesh rip with each impact, and I turn away from the bloody horror. I can't stand to watch it. It's nauseating. Veritas controls the vine like a deadly tool. He must have flogged James 100 times by now, even though only seconds have passed. There's no break in between. The sound of the whip cracking is all but ear-deafening. I jerk back in surprise when a splatter of blood lands onto my cheek. I quickly... How did it get to you? Aren't you, like, quite far back? Or did he come down? Did he come down? I think he came down, actually. I quickly brush it off. The flogging finally stops and I dare to look again. I gasp in horror, almost choking on the bitter root. I clasp my hands in front of my mouth. James is still in the same position, but his armor is in tatters and his entire back has been beaten bloody. It's so inundated with red that I'm unable to recognize his regular skin tone. Captain James failed his mission, and this was his price to pay. The next time, it won't just be him who has to bear his punishment. Veritas strolls out. He then tosses the whip onto the ground without a care, turns on his heel and strides away with his henchman, moving back up the stairs. As soon as his back is turned, James collapses onto the ground, not stirring an inch. He's fainted. Immediately, Eok and another soldier from the lineup rushes towards him. They hoist him up from the ground. Even the tiles are stained red with blood. Completely unconscious, they drag James's limp body away to the side. I'm still frozen on the spot. I've seen James kill someone on the spot, but Seeing him get beaten bloody had a much bigger impact on me. If even the captain gets flogged, what chance do I have? Come on, Earthling Princess, move it. A large soldier grabs my arm and yanks me away. To check that a cat wasn't being naughty. Where are you taking me? I ask, scared I'll get tortured too. Just come. He refuses to answer me. Entering the palace feels like one giant labyrinth. I'm trying to remember the layout in case I want to escape, but all the hallways are so similar, and they seem to stretch on forever. I've walked so many stairs as well. We're pretty high up. If it weren't for the fact that I've been kidnapped to some alien planet, I would have otherwise admired the architecture of this place. Eventually, the soldier stops at what seems to be a door. He slides it open. In here, he says in his gruff voice. He pats me hard on my back and I stumble inside. Wait, for how long? What's going to happen to me? I ask, turning around. Don't ask me, only Captain James knows. With that, he slides the door closed. Immediately, I try to open the door, but it's locked from the outside. I don't see a keyhole, so I don't have any idea how to open it. It must be a hinge or something I can't see. I turn around to inspect my surroundings. It's a rather large room with a bed in the middle. There's several windows behind it, letting in some daylight. At least it's not a dungeon of any kind. In fact, I feel like I'm staying at a super fancy hotel. Everything seems rich and super detailed. This must be the palace, I mutter out loud. After all, they addressed him as Lord Veritas, so it makes sense that everything is so huge and decorative. Images of James's beating flashes through my mind, and I shake my head, trying to clear my thoughts. Wonder how James is doing? As if he's sparing me a thought right now. No, thank you. Think about escaping. I shouldn't think about how my abductor is doing. In fact, he deserves it for kidnapping me in the first place. Instead, I should focus on getting out of here. I may not have been able to escape from a spaceship, but here I'm on land. Well, still stuck in a giant desert, but it's worth a shot to explore my options. I walk over towards the window. The wooden frame and paper prevents me from even thinking about using it as an escape route. I can hear the wind howl through it. I must be really high up. There doesn't seem to be a way out. I seem to be stuck here. I can't lockpick the door either. Suddenly, something else begs for my attention. My full bladder. Always gotta piss. Traversing the desert on those hover bikes still took some time, and I haven't peed in forever, it feels like. Great. Looking around, there are no other doors in this room other than the one I came through. There's no fancy toilet like in the spaceship. I walk back towards the sliding door and bang my fist on it. Hello? Hello? I need to use the bathroom. I mean, the waste facilities, I shout out loud. I press my ear against the door, but I hear nothing. There doesn't seem to be anyone in the vicinity. The more I think about my full bladder, the harder it is to keep it in. I look around. Maybe they have one of those chamber pots, if I'm lucky. I check under the bed. Nothing. Well, I'm not on Earth, after all. Oh, but there's a small round pot on the side of the cabinet. When I check it, there's nothing inside. Okay, this will have to do. Anything is better than just letting it out on the floor. This is so weird. Why is there a storyline about piss? After doing my business, I lie down on the bed, which is rather fluffy. I wonder for how long I need to chew on this bitter root, and if I could get something to drink. I wonder how Eric and Kane are doing. Princess! The door unlocks and opens up. I sit up straight and see Eok appear in the doorway. Relief washes over me to see a familiar face, which is weird because he's still the enemy. Am I getting a case of Stockholm Syndrome? No, he's just nice to you. Princess, must come to infirmary. I stand up straight. Alright. Eok suddenly points his nose in the air and sniffs. One more sniff, and Eok looks directly at the chamber pot I used. Princess, he starts. That's water vase. It is not for waste. My embarrassment is hard to hide. Well, I argue back weakly. No one was answering me, and I really needed to relieve myself. Eok simply chuckles and beckons me to come follow him. Don't smell my pee. After strolling through the maze-like hallways once more, we arrive at a large room. It's different from the rest of the palace. There's a bunch of beds lined up against the wall. Oh, James is in here. He's lying on top of a table, another man hunched over him. Healer Bilius, I've brought the Earthling Princess, Eok greets him. The red-headed man... It's fucking Kane again. The red-headed man turns to me. His striking white pupils are the first thing I notice. If it weren't for that, I'd say he could be a distant family member of Kane. Thank you for bringing her. You can go now. Eok salutes him and leaves the premises. My eyes glide over to the unmoving body of James on the table. It seems the man was in the middle of stitching up his wounds. Healer, he said. Let me introduce myself. I am Bilius, head healer of the infirmary. The man gives me a short bow. With an expressionless face, he taps his finger onto his cheek. I simply stare at him in confusion. The root, princess. I slowly stop chewing on the bitter medicine. Don't tell me it is poison. Saffron root only needs to be chewed for a small amount of time to work. Oh. He stretches his arm, offering me a small glass. Spit. Awkwardly, I finally spit out the bitter root into the glass, which he promptly empties and cleans at a small sink. Filling the glass with water, he wordlessly offers it to me again. He doesn't say much, does he? I take the cup from his hands and silently take a sip, which turns into a glug until the entire glass is empty within seconds. I was really thirsty. Are you feeling better now? He asks, still without giving much of an expression. Ah, yes, I was thirsty. Thank you. This Bilius, while a little stoic, seems much nicer than the rest. It does look completely different than anyone else, though. I wonder how many species live on this planet. I read the report from Prince James in advance, he starts, turning away from me and sitting down on the stool next to James's body. It seems you have some expertise in the medical field? Why do I suddenly feel like such a fraud? I don't really, I admit sheepishly. I can stitch up a wound. Bilius stays quiet for a bit after that, focusing on closing up the wounds on James's bare back. Perhaps you can demonstrate your skills right now, if you don't mind. It's hard to say no to someone so polite. It doesn't seem like he's going to hurt me or anything, so I feel a little safer around him. On him? I ask, pointing my finger at James. Bilius looks up at me, raising his eyebrows a little before lowering them. Yes, he drawls out, unless you want to wait for another body to be delivered? That doesn't sound ominous at all. No, that's okay. I can do it. Then please, take a seat. He gestures towards a stool in the back. As I take it and sit opposite of him, Bilius offers me a thread and some kind of hook. No need, I say, refusing the materials. With curious eyes, he sits back and watches me, waiting for me to start. It must be said out loud, but do not harm the prince, he warns me. As a healer, we have a code of conduct to treat anyone regardless of affiliation. Even if he did indeed capture you from your home planet, please put aside those thoughts when treating a patient. Even if he tried to murder you and your family? I ask, my eyes flicking over to the unmoving body of my captor. So defenseless, so easily killed. Yes, he says with no hesitation, it is especially important to remain neutral despite the patient's previous actions. Those are some hardcore morals over there. I can't help but respect his beliefs. All right. I promise I will not harm the prince, I concede. Very well then, you may begin. I look at my hands. They're dirty and sand is stuck everywhere. That's not even mentioning how much I smell in general. Not taking a shower for a month. What the fuck? You haven't taken a shower for a month? I guess that wasn't mentioned. She mentioned pissing, but she didn't mention showering. And flying through a desert has me looking like a swamp monster. Can I clean my hands first? I just arrived here without a chance to... I say sheepishly. Bilius points back at the small sink. Please, go ahead. I walk over to the stone sink, surprised by how familiar it looks to the ones we have back on Earth. It even has a bar of soap. Quickly, I wash my hands, feeling refreshed after having been stuck with sand underneath my nails forever now. When I'm finished, I return to my seat. First, I inspect the wounds. There are so many open wounds. Some of them can't even be stitched closed and would need to scar over. It's like he's been mauled by an animal with very large claws. I've never seen an injury this intense before. I look for a wound I can treat. There, at the small of his back, I focus my energy to my fingertips, pulling out a thread in between my fingers. Bilius's expression changes slightly as he watches how my thread pierces the tanned skin. It goes through without any resistance, and I start looping it around as if I'm stitching a piece of fabric like I've done 1,000 times before. Within a few seconds, the wound is now closed and neatly stitched. I cut the thread off and tie it at the end. Peculiar. You seem to be materializing a very fine thread. It's so thin I hardly noticed it until the light caught it. Bilius has suddenly gotten close to me and reaches for my hands. Oh, he feels ice cold. Vampire. Are you able to form them anywhere on your body, or just your fingertips? His long, icy fingers glide across my hand, inspecting it carefully. I stammer, feeling awkward. Never mind, maybe Cain is this lady's favourite. Bilius's eyes shoot up and he immediately pulls back. Ah, I'm sorry. That was inappropriate of me. I shouldn't touch you without permission. Forgive me. Suddenly, the once stoic man has become a lot more expressive. I clear my throat. No, it's okay. You didn't hurt me or anything. I was slightly fascinated by your skills. They are definitely well suited for suturing wounds, he praises me. I have not yet met anyone with such a gift as you have. He makes me sound like I'm some type of godly being with an overpowered skill. Back on Earth, I'm just a regular tailor. And no, it's not just from my fingers, I say, answering his previous question. It is no wonder Prince James brought you back. Your gift is extraordinary. Great. He's saying I really did bring it upon myself by patching up a superhero who turned out to be some alien from space and kidnapped me because of my extraordinary stitching. I just want to slam my head into a wall right about now. I glare at his back. If I had just listened to Eric and hadn't decided to go and help out, I might still be at home right now. Kane would have returned and gloated about shooting space aliens from the sky. Eric would have made some stupid pun about aliens. Kim would have cleaned up the boutique. Instead, I'm here. Let's continue, Bilious says. It's not a question. I sigh. Yes. He is right. Regardless of what James did to me, at the moment, he's just someone who needs medical care. For the rest of the time, we suture in silence until most of the wounds are closed. Bilious dresses the other wounds with bandages or gauze. It is oddly relaxing. I only have to focus on the stitching. It almost feels like I am working on another dress or something, even if that sounds really strange. This is skin, not fabric. Once he's mostly cleaned and stitched up, I can finally tell his back is covered in old scars. Old lashings, most likely. This was not the first time it happened. Suddenly, someone comes bursting into the room, carrying another soldier on his arm. Healer, we need help. His soldier got dislocated during training. Bilious gets up from his seat, quickly walking over to the two of them. You stay here, he says to me. Then he addresses the other two. Come, he commands, and guides them to the back part of the room, away from me. I chew on my bottom lip as I look around. I guess I'm not needed right now. Not that I know what to do with the dislocated shoulder. A loud pop startles me, followed by a terrifying scream that echoes through the infirmary. He sounds like he's in agony. It's agonizing to listen to. I'm startled once more when I hear a deep cough emerge from James's unconscious body. No, wait. He's not unconscious anymore. His eyes crack open, wild and frantic, looking around to see where he is. In an instant, he is up on his feet, knocking over the stool Bilious sat on before. His brown eyes lock with mine, though his are a little unfocused still. A strong sense of déjà vu washes over me. Please don't strangle me like last time. Bilious, he bellows and winces at the same time. Coming, Prince James, he hollers back. James reaches for his own back with his hand, touches the gauze, and immediately leaves it alone. How are you feeling? Asks Bilious once he's sent the other two soldiers away. James does not seem to be in a good mood and glares at the redhead. Why is the Earthling princess here? I helped stitch you up. A thank you would suffice, I comment with a slight mocking tone. James clicks his tongue at me. Did I ask for your assistance? He fires back at me. It's only polite to thank the person who helped you out, I reply, narrowing my eyes at him. Then he refuses to look at me any longer, pretending as if I'm not even there. How long have I been unconscious for? He asks groggily. A little longer than last time, Bilious replies. My eyebrows raise. Just how common is it for this to happen to him? I noticed the old scars on his back, but I didn't think this was something that happened frequently. Not that it's any of my business. Now, answer me. How are you feeling? Bilious repeats. Like a newborn infant, James replies sarcastically. Bilious sighs in response. I get the feeling these two don't get along so well. Or maybe they do? I can't tell. I'm taking the princess to her chambers. She should not be here yet. Yet? I echo his sentiments. Could you be quiet already? Your voice is too overwhelming right now, he complains, closing his eyes. Might I suggest that you spend the night in the infirmary and... We're leaving, he announces loudly and grabs my upper arm, yanking me away. Hey! I screech. Don't be so rough. James takes no heed to my complaints and drags me towards the door. Prince James, if you don't rest, you'll... I get to decide whether I rest or not, he growls back. Oh, so you're a child. I don't want a nap yet. He shoves me out of the infirmary. Oh, alright. Well, this chapter went on for a long time, so I'll see you in the next one.